treat the monarchy tree. Consequences of actions don't pay. Heavy toxins in the air, what will we breathe?
Well, howdy, film buffs. It's Straight Shooter. You know what time it is. Time for an episode of How I See It. Welcome to Team Sound Studios. And today's spoiler red band review will be of the brand new Quentin Tarantino movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, I was really psyched to see this movie. I'm a big Tarantino fan, from Reservoir Dogs all the way up until his most recent movie, Hateful Eight. I have them all on Blu-ray. He's an awesome director. I love his style. All that stuff. So, of course, this movie was greatly anticipated for me. I finally went to see it. And the premise of the movie is basically Leonardo DiCaprio plays this actor back in the 60s, and he's reaching a plateau. He gets a talking to by a producer played by Al Pacino. Seeing Al Pacino playing a Jewish producer is really funny. That's one of the best parts of the movie. He basically tells Leonardo DiCaprio's character, which is Rick Dalton, that you want to be a heavy for the rest of your life, which is, in movie terms, a bad guy that always gets beat by the good guy, but he's the main bad guy, or whatever you want to call it. Or you want to go to Italy and shoot some westerns or whatever. His best friend is Brad Pitt, who plays a character by the name of Cliff Booth, who's a stunt double. Pretty much most of the movie, they're palling around going to movie sets and doing shooting. And that's basically the premise of the movie. Because, to be honest, there's no real cohesive plot. It's just basically, okay, each scene, each act in the movie is one long conversation, which consists of flashbacks, callbacks, whatever you want to call it, flash forwards, but it keeps going back to characters talking, sitting there, whatever. What Tarantino did was he shot the movie by basically making Hollywood look like it was in the 60s. Old cars, the signs are different, all this stuff. And I think he probably got too caught up in the idea of making a movie that was Hollywood nostalgia than he did in making a movie that was entertaining and that went somewhere. There were real-life characters in the movie, like Sharon Tate, who people from back then know was one of the people that was murdered by Charles Manson. There was Bruce Lee, and there was Roman Polanski, who actually lived next door to Rick Dalton. But that's pretty much it. Most of the other characters are just made-up characters. I think Tarantino just got too caught up in the idea of making scenes. Kind of like, okay, if you saw the movie Four Rooms, there was one story, then there was another story, then there was another story, then there was another story. I mean, the stories were connected, but they didn't bleed into each other. This kind of felt like that, except for it was one big idea, and everything that was happening happened within the landscape of Hollywood 1969. There are some really good parts to the movie. Leonardo DiCaprio, I can't say anything against his acting. He's one of the best actors of his time. He did a really good job in this movie. Brad Pitt did a really good job in this movie. Al Pacino did a really good job in this movie. Margot Robbie, who plays Sharon Tate, she didn't really have to do much. because most of the movie, all she was doing was smiling, dancing to music, and looking pretty. And all the camera cared about was looking at Margot Robbie. You know, looking at her from behind, looking at her face when she's sitting there in the movie theater. She has her feet up, and everyone knows that Tarantino has a foot obsession. So, so we get to see her bare feet, dirty and all. So, I just think that there was too much time spent on one scene or another without the plot moving anywhere. Like, towards the end of the movie, you start to see some things come together. Like, Cliff Booth gives this hippie chick a ride to a ranch, and supposedly that's where the Manson family is staying. And he goes to visit his friend who owns the ranch, and he's got the idea that he's being held prisoner or being coerced in some way, but he goes and talks to him. And his friend doesn't give him any signals that anything's wrong, but still he has it in his mind that something's wrong. He beats someone up, but then he leaves the ranch, and then that was probably one of the most intense scenes in the movie. But it didn't really have anything to do with what happened at the end, which disappointed me. Because there were 3 people from the Manson clan that went to the same block where they live and try to invade Rick Dalton's home. And Cliff Booth happened to be there. It wasn't like they were tracking Cliff Booth down because they were trying to plot revenge against them. He just happened to invade that home. He smoked an acid-dipped cigarette, so he's tripping, but somehow he manages to sick his dog on them, beat them up, and basically fucking kill them. And then one of them bursts out into the pool where Rick Dalton is. He grabs a flamethrower from a movie set. And that was another thing that I was like, okay on, because why would a movie company give an actor a real life flamethrower to take home? That didn't make any sense. After everything that happened, Cliff Booth was rushed to the hospital because he got stabbed, but he was okay. And then one of the neighbors that's staying at the Roman Polanski homes talks to Rick Dalton, and you know, he's staying there with Sharon Tate, and he's like, do you want to come up and meet everybody? And he's like, okay. He goes up to the door, they greet each other, they go inside, and that's the end of the movie. Like, nothing that you were thinking was going to happen or were looking forward to happening happens. It's just like he took all the wind out of the sails with the fucking ending. So, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is the first Tarantino movie that I just didn't like. Because even though there were things in the movie that were enjoyable, like there was this one scene where there was this actor playing Bruce Lee, and he was pitch perfect as Bruce Lee. It didn't really matter in the end that Bruce Lee was there. It was just kind of like, okay, and there were a lot of other cameos by characters, like Mama Cass and Michelle Williams, Bruce Lee. And there were other actors that actors were playing. And none of them had any effect on the outcome of the movie. They were just there to provide conversation with the main characters. And it was kind of like, okay. I found myself during the movie saying, okay, where is this going? Where is this leading toward? There's got to be some kind of big climax. Because Tarantino always delivers in the end. And this time he didn't really deliver. I mean, if the home invasion was the coup de grace, then it was a letdown, to say the least. I'm still a fan of Tarantino. If he makes another movie, I'll definitely go see it. And I still love his other movies. But this one, for me, I just didn't dig it. I just thought it was unnecessary. I just thought it was self-indulgence. It was all about him trying to make a movie that did a lot of references, did a lot of visual shots, but didn't really go anywhere. Overall, what would I give the movie? Probably a C minus. And I hate like fucking hell to give that score to a Tarantino movie. And I know that this movie is probably more nostalgic for people that are baby boomers, that were alive in the 60s, that were in Hollywood in the 60s, but I just don't fit under that category. The whole time I was saying, okay, where is this going? It's going somewhere, isn't it? And it didn't really go anywhere. But anyway, that's how I see it. So that's review 3 of 3 today. I probably won't be doing another review for a little while because I checked what else is coming out in August, and there's just nothing on the calendar that I'm really excited to see. September, there's some movies coming out which I'm going to see, but I'm going to try to figure out a way to fill in the time by doing another little segment or something. I'll figure something out. But until next time, this is Straight Shooter signing off. Have fun. See you at the movies.
So easy to be paranoid, yet